Dinamarca, Suecia, Noruega, Finlandia, Groenlandia y Países Bajos, dirigida por ISABELLA EKLÖF y que tiene su estreno internacional en la sección oficial del Festival de San Sebastián. Nos acompañan en esta rueda de prensa, voy a ir en este orden, ISABELLA EKLÖF, la directora, EMIL JOHNSEN, el actor, BERDA LARSEN, la actriz principal, y LEINE, guionista. Como siempre, voy a lanzar la primera pregunta y después os pido, por favor, que levantéis las manos para que pueda ir dándoos paso en orden. Isabela, quería preguntarte, esta es tu segunda película larga como directora después de Holiday, de 2018, pero también tienes una experiencia amplia como guionista en películas que han tenido un amplio recorrido internacional como Border. Quería preguntarte en concreto cómo surge la idea de esta película y también un poco dirigida esta pregunta a Kim, si empezáis a trabajar conjuntamente en esta idea y en la escritura, o bueno, cómo surge esa primera idea inicial.
Yes, so, hi. So I actually wrote Kim, and this, I haven't told Kim this before, but I actually wrote him before I read the book. But I only read the back of the book, and I knew I was going to love this book, so I wrote him directly, and then I read the book. And it's because it's, I think the essence of the story is so powerful and so important. Fortunately, nobody else had optioned the book that the film is based on, and we started working together. And Kim was super open and generous and understanding with the fact that the literary medium and the cinematic medium are very different, and that I was allowed to shape basically his story in a way that works for cinema. So we had a really good collaboration.
And this was a very long time ago, actually. Yeah. 5 years or 4 years?
Yeah.
5?
4, I think, just after Holiday premiered.
Yeah, and then the COVID lockdown happened, and everything stalled. Yeah. So it's been a very long process.
Yeah, it's been very. Kim has actually written most of the script. I've just basically given him tasks, and then he wrote it.
She's removed half of it.
Yes, of course. Also in editing, I had to.
Because I am a novelist, I tend to write prose.
Yes.
And when you write the script, you shouldn't write prose. You should write lines.
Yeah.
So that's been a learning process for me.
Yeah.
So thanks for that.
Thank you.
To you and Sissel.
Por favor, id levantando la mano para que os pueda ir dando turno. Mientras tanto, yo, ahondando un poco en esta idea, no he tenido ocasión de leer el libro en el que está adaptada la película, pero sí llama mucho la atención como espectadora cuando la ves el territorio en el que está situado. Quería saber si es algo que ya viene heredado del libro o es algo Groenlandia, situarlo la historia en Groenlandia, o si es algo que aportáis vosotros, y también muy particularmente cómo hicisteis un poco la investigación respecto a este espacio que contribuye tanto a la construcción de la propia historia.
The film is very close to the book, so the story absolutely takes place in Greenland, and it's very important that it takes place in Greenland. It's very much about Greenland, or at least one person's perception of Greenland. And what was I going to say? What was follow? Oh, yeah, research. Well, actually, to be honest, most of the research came from the book itself and from Kim's experiences. And then, of course, we traveled there, and we went there several times and talked to a lot of people, among others, BERDA. And exploring the different characters, and also we had a workshop with women in Nuuk about relationships, sexuality, and so on. But actually, most of the stuff is from Kim.
So I lived in Greenland for 15 years. I worked as a nurse there, and I had the same crisis as described in the book, but during a very much longer time. And the village where some of the film takes place, I stayed there for 5 years with my family. So I know these people, the actual people in the film. And they don't act, they're just themselves in a very natural way. So that was very touching for me to see them again.
Yeah.
Quería preguntar a EMIL y a BERDA, fundamentalmente a EMIL, tiene un personaje muy complicado, saber cómo se preparó, cómo os preparasteis para interpretar a este personaje y también un poco cómo relacionasteis desde la dirección de actores, cómo trabajasteis con el equipo.
How I worked with the rest of the...
No. Second question.
How...
¿Cómo te preparaste para interpretar?
First of all, I read the book maybe like 20 times.
Okay.
And
Wow.
made lots of, or not 20, but a lot of times, again and again. And we met several times, went to Greenland once, and then I guess, as with every character, work to understand what drives the character and what is the emotional need of the character, and I sort of try to personalize that and understand that, what it means. Like, as for me, I think a big question for Jan in the movie is like, or what drives him is, can I be loved if I have been abused, and how can a healthy love relationship look like for me? So he's constantly looking for validation in other people, opening up in a very way without boundaries or limits. So I think that was like a key, and Isabella and I talked a lot about these kind of things, and then obviously I worked with the language a lot because I'm not Danish, I had to learn Danish, and then Isabella's direction usually was remember to smile and be friendly to everyone because that's your character.
Yeah. That's the big difference between the character and you.
Yeah, so to smile every so often.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not maybe one of those directors who talks a lot, to be honest, you know, and does a lot of analysis and backstory and stuff. I think a lot of my work is in the casting, and when I find someone who I think understands the part and has the possibility to go into it, I think I am very, like, open to whatever your interpretation of the part is, except that you need to smile more, of course.
Yes,
Yeah. So, yeah.
No sé si quizás BERDA nos quisiera contar algo también de su experiencia en la película, de su personaje, que también es importante cómo se relaciona junto con el personaje de EMIL.
Hi, I just want to say hi first. It feels weird just talking. Hello, everyone. Regarding to the whole relationship between my character and Jan, me, myself, personally, I have the experience of meeting that type of a person. I'm just going to repeat it. I feel like you didn't get through, but it is very much personal experience regarding to my dysfunctional past within looking for, seeking a dysfunctional person. So for me, it wasn't hard getting into the whole dynamic between the character I had and the one that Emil had. So yeah, with that said, I hope that it answered your question.
Sí, muchas gracias. Ahí tenemos una pregunta.
Yes, hello. Congratulations for the film. I enjoyed it. I want to talk a little bit about this tentative. They try to integrate your character, played by EMIL JOHNSEN, and probably your personal experience, Mr. LEINE. You try to integrate into native society, native Greenland society, right? And so does the daughter. But the daughter visibly fails. Does EMIL, in the end, feel integrated in Greenland native society, and how does that link with the final? I mean, where he basically poisons his father.
My hearing is terrible. My hearing aid is in my pocket, but as far as I could understand, it's about how the daughter integrates in the Greenlandic community.
And also the character of Jan.
Yes.
If he fails or if he succeeds in integrating.
Yes, but as I said, I lived there for 15 years. The first 7 years, I lived there with my family. When we arrived in 1989 to Nuuk, my daughter was 1.5-year-old, and my son was 3 years old. And so they were integrated. They went to school, the children in kindergarten in the beginning, and then school, and they started speaking Greenlandic better than me, and then I tried to catch up with them and also learn to speak Greenlandic, which is an extremely complicated language to learn for a European. The verbs have 640, what do you call it, bøjninger, conjugations.
Yeah.
640. And I struggled to be integrated and become a Greenlander. So I learned the language pretty well. And I learned to eat the food. And I tried to behave as a Greenlander. And that's why they started to shouting after me on the street, "Hello, Kalak," which I looked up in the dictionary, and it said it meant a real Greenlander. But as time went by, I found out that what's in the dictionary and what's meant in real and the street would be two different things, and that Kalak meant "you big idiot." And so I was integrated in Greenland by being a big idiot. And that became my identity in Greenland. After 7 years, I was divorced from my wife, and they went back to Denmark, and I stayed there, and I spiraled down into my own crisis, which led to a big morphine abuse, and I was kicked out of my job and out of Greenland and returned to Denmark and sat down and wrote my novel, which has now become a movie.
So I think the answer to the question is that ultimately Jan fails because he's kicked out. I don't think the daughter fails, actually. She's just removed from there by the grown-ups. Yeah.
My daughter is fine today, and so is my son. But she has this big mensure or scar here after the dogs.
Yeah.
She's become an anthropologist.
And she has a big dog.
Second big dog, yeah. She loves dogs.
Levantad la mano en cuanto, sí.
Sí, enhorabuena por la película. A mí una de las cosas que más me ha gustado de la película es que sobre todo juega contra las expectativas del espectador, ¿no? Desde el principio, cuando el padre, por ejemplo, mira a cámara, rompe la cuarta pared leyendo esa carta, o cuando de repente vemos que la mujer del protagonista acepta sus infidelidades, un médico le está recomendando que se drogue. Bueno, no sé, me gustaría que me explicara un poco la directora si ha tenido eso en cuenta, ¿no? El intentar jugar contra las expectativas, jugar contra lo que espera el espectador, ¿no? de la historia.
Yeah, totally. I love to work against expectations because sometimes life is not dramaturgically clean and simple, and it makes it much more interesting and to explore all the stuff that isn't necessarily so neat and story focused. So and also it's fun, you know, and we've been fed with this, you know, very Hollywoodish dramaturgies, all of us since we were kids, and we know exactly what's going to happen, and it's boring. And so when you hang a gun on the wall, like Chekhov said, then you should not shoot it, because it's more fun to just watch the gun on the wall and have the tension around that, and then talk about something else.
Yo querría preguntarte un poquito más a fondo sobre la importancia del territorio en la película y en particular sobre cómo habéis trabajado desde el punto de vista de la fotografía, porque es una fotografía muy impresionante en la película que ayuda como a construir la propia historia. Y también querría preguntar a todo el equipo si el propio rodaje, un poco la hostilidad o las dificultades del territorio estuvo condicionando vuestro trabajo de manera habitual.
Well, I mean, I think one of the, sorry, what was the first question about?
A nivel de la dirección de fotografía o la fotografía o la importancia que tiene...
Yes. Yeah, of course, super important, yeah. I mean, yes, Nadim has some experience, a lot of experience with documentary still photography as well. And I think that shows very much in the film. It's very important that he is like presence as almost another character in the room, somebody observing, somebody watching people's faces and being close and being a curious camera that is interested in the people and what's going on. So I think, yes, absolutely, it's crucial that somebody like Nadim could take on that artistic task. And to the second part, yeah, I mean, there's the film industry is still developing in Greenland, so there was not that much equipment, so we had a lot of stuff shipped, which of course is difficult and expensive. That being said, Nuuk in itself wasn't super difficult to shoot in. It's like a provincial town, but Kulusuk on the east coast was crazy because, yeah. Their de-icing machine had broken down, for example. So when we were flying there was ice on the plane, and we had to turn around because if the plane landed, it would never lift again. And there are like regular storms, and we were stupid enough to shoot in November because we wanted to have snow and not snow. But that just meant that we had like the worst winter storms that are in November in Kurosuk. So we really kind of shot ourselves in the film. But it went all right. But we were really warned not to go there, because it's just a tiny place in the middle of nowhere. So we could have really fucked up, to be honest. We could have really come home with nothing. And also we discovered at some point that there was one of the lenses was malfunctioning, and it was out of focus. That lens, everything we shot, because we had to shoot on 16, send it to I think Amsterdam, and get it back. The rush is back like a week or two later. We didn't discover that one of the lenses was faulty until like 2 weeks later, and then we had to throw away all that footage. So, yeah, it was challenging. But of course, that's one of the things that makes it interesting, because if it wasn't challenging, then people would have done it a long time ago. So, yeah.
Quería preguntar a Emil, es una película complicada y, como han preguntado, también rompe mucho las expectativas del espectador. En San Sebastián está teniendo el estreno internacional. ¿Cómo es un poco recibido el personaje que interpretas? Y si has tenido algún feedback de algún tipo de los espectadores que ya han podido disfrutar de la película por la complejidad del personaje que interpretas.
Not yet. It just finished and we just came here.
No, en los pases previos es el estreno internacional.
Oh. This is the first showing.
Yeah.
This
Sorry.
is the I've actually spoken to no one who has seen it before.
Yeah.
And
Llegarán ahora, entiendo los feedbacks.
Yes.
thank you.
Quería también, en la misma cosa de sorpresa un poco, porque es una propuesta que cuando los espectadores lo ven realmente rompe muchos esquemas, un poco saber cuáles son los referentes cinematográficos de esta película, Isabella, si te anclas a alguna tradición cinematográfica o es algo nuevo.
What is my reference making? What kind of film? Oh, right. Well, Claire Denis, obviously. It's not so apparent in this film, but in Holiday for sure you can see that I'm a very big fan of hers. So it's extra amazing to be here when she's here. Yeah, it's very obvious references from Haneke and Seidel as well, but also like classics like Bergman, Fassbinder, bit of Harmony Korine, Roy Andersson, yeah, all of those.
No sé si alguien tiene alguna pregunta.
Sí, yo quería hacer una pregunta en el doble sentido para EMIL y para Kim. Si EMIL tuvo cierto contacto con Kim para preguntarle sobre cosas que le ocurrieron al personaje, dado que es una historia basada en hechos reales, en la vida de Kim. Y luego a Kim también me gustaría preguntarle cómo ha visto su personaje, por decirlo de alguna forma, encarnado en la piel de EMIL.
Yeah, I spoke to Kim, I think, twice before we did the shoot, and for quite a while, and asked a lot of questions, which I had. And at the same time, I think we also spoke about that this movie also is in one way separate from the book, and the character has a different name than the character in the book, and that my job as an actor was not actually to portray Kim in that way. One could have made that choice, but that was not what Isabella wanted. She wanted to develop it into also its own piece of art in a different way. So I didn't study how Kim walks, or how he talks, or how he moves, and not that kind of character portrayal. I more tried to understand what drove him at the time, and how that trauma affected what happened in Greenland and during that period of his life.
I don't feel that Emil portrayed me at all. He portrays the character of the movie. So it's important to understand that, first of all, when I wrote the book, the autobiographical book, it the story sort of detached itself from myself and became a sort of objective identity outside myself. That was a big relief for me, because I could put the story away and start anew. And then when you publish a book, it has to go into the world and managed by itself, maybe be turned into a movie. And the movie, of course, also has to detach itself from the book. So it's become a completely new work of art in its own rights. And when I wrote the manuscript, I knew this wasn't the work of art. It was just a tool for Isabella. The manuscript is a tool, it's not a work of art. And the work of art is the movie, and it belongs to Isabella more than anyone else.
No sé si alguien tiene alguna pregunta más. Y si no, os voy a pedir un aplauso para el equipo de la película y damos por finalizada la rueda de prensa.